Hey everybody, Nancy here from American Pet Professionals. Welcome back to another episode of Digging into the Pet Industry, and we are airing live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook as well. So wherever you're watching from, thank you so much for being here. And if you're listening to our podcast, thank you for listening. So today we have a treat. I'm really excited to introduce you to our next guest, who is APP member, Dr. Gerald Buchoff of the Longevity Veterinary Center in Whippany, New Jersey. Hey, Dr. B.
Good afternoon. How
How
are
are
you?
you?
Good.
Thank you for being here. Is it okay if I call you Dr. B?
That's what most people do call me.
That's what I thought. So here on Digging into the Pet Industry, we do kind of jump right into the questions. So let's dig in. Let me ask you this. Let's go back a bit to when you first started into your veterinary career. Where did you start? Let's start from the beginning.
Started in, about 6 years old, I guess, when I was considered the nature boy at summer camp, and then became the nature counselor later on, and then went on to my bachelor's degree in animal science. And while I was in undergraduate, I decided to, I was a president of the Rutgers Veterinary Science Club and invited two of my veterinarian professors to come and speak about veterinary school in foreign countries, one in Canada and one in India. And three of us were so impressed that we all applied to the same veterinary school in India.
Oh,
And
wow.
had an American education in India, plus the extra education of a different culture. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't until so I graduated from veterinary school in 1980
Okay.
and got my license in 82, and then started immediately hearing from my clients about holistic medicine, about different, isn't there more you can do for my dog's cancer or for my cat's asthma or this or that? I read about this. I heard a radio program about this. And I perked up and paid attention and listened to my clients. And here I am doing holistic medicine. In 1995 or 4 or something, I heard Dr.
Wow.
Carvel T. Down in Florida at the North American Veterinary Conference. And he spoke about holistic medicine, and I was right on board. I joined the group, and eventually I became the president of the group about 10 years later. Then in 1996, I just jumped in wholeheartedly, left conventional medicine and went into integrative medicine.
Wow.
And here I am. And then this year, 5 weeks ago, I opened up a brand new holistic center,
Wow.
Longevity Veterinary Center, and it is 15,000 square feet. It's
Wow.
gigantic. It's probably the largest holistic practice ever. And right now we only have 4 holistic veterinarians. We will have several more.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have 24/7 emergency, which incorporates some holistic medicine, although, you have to understand in emergency medicine, you're doing mostly allopathic medicine. And a lot of it is physical, of course, just taking care of the problems. Yeah.
That's so incredible. So I'm getting excited because I've been into the holistic veterinarian. I've been going to a holistic veterinarian where I live in New York on Long Island for well over 15 years and reading everything and talking to a lot of holistic vets over the years. So when you open a 15,000 square foot, integrative veterinarian center, that is so incredible to me. Are you going to replicate those across the country? Because that's what I'm like, ooh, we need those everywhere.
I hope somebody does. Let's see, I'm 69 years old, and I give myself another 10 years, although my father is 96 and he's still inventing things and bringing them
There
to
you go.
market. So who am I to ever retire?
You never know, right?
Who knows?
That's amazing. Incredible. So I know we know what integrative and holistic is, but if somebody's brand new to it, can you give a little background on what an integrative veterinarian is, what it stands for?
Well, holistic medicine is the same thing as integrative medicine. It's a combination of the conventional medicine plus alternative medicine. And some people, when they say alternative medicine, they're really talking about, you ready? Traditional medicine.
Right.
When I say traditional, it's what goes back to the 1800s and 1700s and further, where herbs were the thing. And even in the 1800s, ozone was a thing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of spirituality to medicine and to imbalance in the body, and a lot of a lot that we do focuses on the spiritual well-being, the emotional well-being of an animal. So if they have inflammatory bowel disease, if they have hyperthyroidism, if they have just so many problems, probably every problem starts with an imbalance in the emotions that then leads to an imbalance in the physiology, which then can lead to an imbalance in the anatomy.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Thank you for that explanation. It's so true. I think a few years ago, something came out, like a study about how if you're, having an argument in the house, how it affects your pets. And I'm like, just look at their body language. You can see how it's affecting if somebody's, yelling or upset or even yelling, dog forbid at the dog itself. You can just see it. And I can see how that imbalance would start. Thank you for that. That's a
Right.
really
Well, that's the
incredible.
emotional part, but also think about the spirituality part.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for me to announce, I'm sorry, your cat has hyperthyroidism, your dog has hypothyroidism, whatever it is, you have IBD. And they say, oh, I have that same thing. And I think there is something to that,
Yeah,
that there's a
definitely.
spiritual connection in disease formation.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's definitely connected. And I think, for me, when I first started going to a holistic veterinarian, and I would tell people, I don't do this for my dog. I don't put that on my dog. Like, all the things. They'd be like, are you crazy? Aren't you worried? I'm like, Not at all. I'm like, so, and do you have any advice as a veterinarian to give a pet parent, especially a new pet parent who's looking for potentially to go to a holistic vet and not really sure how to vet somebody? Pun intended.
Pun
For
intended.
yeah, for that.
Well, what is it that they want? A lot of people come to a holistic veterinarian because they don't want to have excess vaccines. And I follow Dr. Jean Dodd's protocol of starting at 9 weeks old with a dog, 8 weeks with a cat, and only giving 2 distemper vaccines. And then when it comes to the rabies, give it at 6 months, give it a year later, and that's it with all those vaccines. Try to never give another vaccine, and the way to do that is to do blood titers every 6 months. I'm sorry, every 3 years after that. And that's the main thing that people are looking for. But there's so many other things. When I do chiropractic, when I see a pet, I like to start at 8 weeks old with chiropractic adjustments as a preventive thing, and do it also a week later, then 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, 4 weeks after that, then 3 months, and then every 6 months for the rest of their lives. The research that Dr. Bill Inman did back in the 60s showed that dogs and cats will live about 28.5% longer on average just from that effect. And with everything else we do and the things that we avoid doing, the chemicals that we avoid on the bodies, et cetera, I've found by looking at my old records when I was just doing conventional medicine versus holistic medicine now, that my patients are living 40% longer.
Well, I'm not surprised at all by that. That's incredible. It's really incredible. I think, for a long time, I took my dog to holistic vet, my dog behind me this way, my dog before him. We had aquapuncture, and not acupuncture, but aquapuncture, and like all these things that just help them more mobile and everything else. And back when I really started looking into it, I started changing things in my own personal life. I'm like, well, I don't want to take all those medicines because what is it doing to the rest of my body? So it really became synergistic in how I was living my own life with treating my dogs even better. So it's really incredible that you start with the chiropractic care. I've never heard anybody say that in all my years of talking to somebody. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Um, it's just obvious to me that if you do more of the good and avoid the bad. I mean, I'm trying to simplify it as much
Yeah.
as I can, and this applies to everything in life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That if you prevent things that cause disease, that you stay away from food that causes disease, excess um, fats, excess salts, excess anything,
Yeah.
and just try to get to the basics and avoid grains. This whole thing about grain-free food, the grain-free genre,
Yeah.
people are taking it as, oh, that means feed grain, which is not what it means, but that's a
Right.
whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm still trying to stick to your question. Stay with simple. Stay with the things that are important to the animal and that are that you're trying to give them what's whole, what feeds their health, and
Yeah.
stay away from things that take away from it. So stay away from vaccines being excessive. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an older pet have rabies vaccine, and then 2 months later, sometimes 3 months, but usually it's about 2 months, I'll see cancer.
Mm.
What did I have the other day? It was a dog that had, it was a cancer. It was a big,
Yeah.
the chest was filled with fluids, and oh, yes, we had the rabies vaccine a month and a half before. The dog was fine. It had almost never been to a vet in its whole life. It wasn't
Yeah.
quite that way, but very, very few times. I just hear that over and over, and I see it.
It's too bad that, I know that you can get the titer test done for that, and right, for rabies and for a few of the vaccines you can get titered. It's too bad that that doesn't become a standard operating procedure or standard of care. If your dog gets to 10, are going to now titer, and we'll document everything, give them the report so that it's legal and all of that, because we understand that you don't want rabies around, right? But you also want to be protecting the dog. So I wish that was more of a mainstream. Hopefully within the next 10 years or so that might get there. You never know, right? I think more and more people are coming around to holistic care and understanding that, and new pet parents asking a ton more questions than maybe 15, 20 years ago, where they just were like, okay, this is what I have to do, instead of not actually thinking about, is this actually what I want to do for my pet?
Sure. And then, you have to think about all the ways that you can avoid steroids and hormones
Mhm.
and even surgery, using herbs, we use Chinese herbs,
Yep.
Western herbs, Ayurvedic herbs, rainforest herbs. In
Wow.
fact, if we have a cat or a dog that has an open pyometra, if for your viewers, that means infection of the uterus,
Okay.
where the uterus is filled with pus, but it's open, the cervix is open, so it's draining a little. You can give an herb combination that's Ayurvedic, and it will actually expel all of that pus, and it'll cleanse the uterus so that pet can return to breeding. The breed
Wow.
clubs
That's
need to hear
crazy.
this. So there's all kinds of things, ozone therapy, heliotherapy, glandular therapy, acupuncture, chiropractic, um, um, IV vitamin C, Beamer therapy, where you're improving um, um, the flow of blood, cold laser, stem cell. There's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
things that we can do, essential oils, aromatherapy, instead of allopathic medicine that might have side effects. So all these things don't have side effects. And I'm holding out with, I feel, the most important thing I could say in this whole interview, that the effects or uh, the influence on our health, on our pet's health, is a small percent are genetics, okay, less than 10%.
Yep.
A small percent of what's around us,
Yep.
okay, our food is very important,
Yep.
but mostly what's in our body. The bacteria in our intestines actually accounts for more than 70% of the influence on our health.
Yep.
That's major.
It's crazy.
And we're finding more and more research that tells us that we should be paying lots of attention to that. And I want to send a call out, a hail to Margot Roman up in Boston area for really pushing this and getting more veterinarians to understand this and to use it to do microbiome restoration therapy. It's MBRT. Some people call it fecal transplants, to take the bacteria from a very healthy animal to give it to one that's imbalanced and restore their health. And it is so effective.
I have recently heard of that. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about that. Yeah, I'm so happy that you told me that or mentioned it, because I've heard of that like probably the beginning of this year, and I was like, what is that? And I started reading about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to shout out to her. Yeah.
That's incredible. So is there a test on that microbiome that you can do for dogs, cats, and stuff to see what their problems areas are in their gut?
Yeah, the first company that I know of that came out with that is called Animal Biome Company.
Oh, yeah.
It's animalbiome.com. And you can the doctor can send the stool to them and get a full reading, or relatively full reading. There's only a certain amount of bacteria they can test, but in reality, in the gut, there's about 1,000 different bacteria that we need to pay attention to. And so it is possible. It's possible to get a certain reading, but it's not possible to test all 1,000, at least at this time in history. It's what do they say? About 500 different bacteria and about 1,000 different serotypes or subtypes of bacteria that could be tested. And so at least we can get a good handle on what's important. And just by giving probiotics, you're only giving 1 or 2 bacteria, which are major bacteria, but it's nothing like giving a microbiome restoration. In fact, we own one of the, I don't know, I'm sure there's less than a score of dogs in the United States that have perfect biome and are bred for it and kept nurtured for that and fed for that. We have one of them, and actually I have 2 of them right at the moment, and we use their stool to do those fecal transplants.
Wow, that's incredible. So, it's always like you see when people are like, my dog has, gut issues, he's getting sick or she's getting sick, and everybody's always like, feed a pumpkin. I'm like, you got to get your dog, checked out by a vet. That could help temporarily. We love pumpkin, but it's interesting. So if somebody does have a dog that has those kind of things, when they go to their vet, is that a test that they have to ask for, the animal biome? Because I have heard of them. I think I remember when they first started. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, you have to ask for it for sure.
Okay.
Most veterinarians aren't aware of it. But
Right.
All they have to do is look at animalbiome.com.
Okay, cool. All right, that's good to know.
And it's a simple test. You just send in the poop.
Yeah. It's like an advanced poop test. If you're bringing your dog in annually, they're checking the dog's fecal matter anyway, right? So that's interesting. So how many veterinary centers do you have now that you just opened the bigger one?
This is it.
This is it. Okay, cool. So that's what I wasn't sure about that. I know that you had your grand opening is coming up soon, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome.
In 2 weeks, June 4th.
All right. Well, we'll put that information in the comments. But I'm curious, what is something that, as a simple tip that you can give to a pet parent that they can take, do at home, something that they might not be thinking about?
Feed raw diet.
Hey, that's a good
Feed
segue.
raw diet, number 1, and have chiropractic adjustments done from 8 weeks old on. And then the regular things: brush the coat every day with a slicker brush the teeth every day, or give bones to chew on. Either one of them works beautifully.
Yeah.
Tap the thymus of the dog or cat.
What does that do?
10 times once a day. That stimulates their immune system. their thymus gland, and wipe their feet when they come back in from outside. Simple things.
Love it. I love it. That all seems like very well. The tapping I didn't hear of, but the rest of it definitely seems simple, like you said. So, speaking of feeding raw, I know that you have a raw food, Longevity Raw. When in your career did you start to decide to say, "Hey, we should have our own line of raw food"?
2002.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that long ago. Okay,
Yeah.
very cool.
And I've changed I've enhanced it so that I add medicinal mushrooms
Mhm.
and also lycopene in the form of tomato paste, and also garlic and ginger, to all medicinal,
Yeah.
functional foods to
Mhm.
add to our diets.
I love that. So if somebody is like, "Hey, I want to have my dog be a raw-fed dog," how do they get started? Whether their dog has been eating another diet, whether it's home cooked or kibble, and they're like, "I really want to do raw," how do they actually transition and get started? Because there's a
They
lot of
wean them
info.
onto it slowly,
Wean them onto it slowly.
right
Yeah, because
away,
I feel
over
like
5-10 days.
okay, that's not too bad.
The cat over 20 days to 3 months. It can take a while.
Cats are a little bit more picky. That's funny. So 5 to 10 days to wean them in. And do you have any information on that? Like just like on your blog or on your website or
Uh,
anything like that?
lvcnj.com. And if you look at lvcnj.com, you look at the Longevity Veterinary Center. Within our center are three entities.
Okay.
One is our food company, Longevity, Dr. B's Longevity Food, our emergency, 24/7 emergency. And the third is what I originally had been. It's holistic pet care.
Okay.
So it's holistic pet care within Longevity Veterinary Center. So there's three websites attached to the lvcnj.com, and you get all your information there.
So that's great. Even if somebody's not even in New Jersey, they can go to any of those three websites and get all the information they need to check out the longevity raw dog food. I think it's a nice thing to see that raw dog food and raw feeding is becoming more and more mainstream. The only thing that I get a little frustrated with is there's a lot of information out there, and I think it overwhelms people. They're like, "Am I doing the right thing? Am I putting enough of this in?" So your product, I would imagine, covers all of those bases.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Oh, I forgot a very important aspect of our food, and that is the glandular aspect. The glandular theory says if you want your heart to be healthy, you should eat heart. If you want your liver to be healthy, you should eat liver. So this is a glandular theory.
Mhm.
So you should try to represent as many organs in the body as possible, and that's something that I really pay a lot of attention to, and I don't see that in many dog foods at all.
Yeah.
So, they all have heart and liver, but they don't have eyes. They don't have brain. They don't have, uh, you know, a lot of different organs like the spleen. And the only thing you're not supposed to have in there is thyroid, because that can actually cause problems. But every other organ, it would be good to have in there. Kidneys, yeah,
Interesting.
bladder, everything.
Wow. I've never heard that. That's so
Mhm.
interesting. It makes sense though, right?
That's a really important aspect of our Dr. B's longevity dog food. Yeah.
Very cool. So, what would you tell somebody that is thinking about becoming a vet, or maybe they're already in veterinary school and they're not sure which field to go into, into holistic or regular veterinary care is the layman's term that I'm calling it.
Um, Look at yourself, see if you love animals, love people, love science, especially medical science.
Mhm.
And uh, that's really, I think, the basis. And then get really good grades in school. Don't be afraid to get out there and be involved with animals and animal groups. Try to find the time. Certainly, hang out at a veterinary hospital or three. Get to see if that's really what you want to do day to day. That's how I figured it out. I spent a vacation in a veterinary hospital.
Yeah, and I think there are even like summer programs and stuff like that where people have either interns or they have like a 2-week camp and stuff like that. Oh no, we lost him. Uh-oh. Well, hopefully Dr. B will come back in. We will give him a minute. And in the meantime, we will eventually put in the all the links and everything into the comment section so you guys can check out everything that he does and all the information there. I know Dr. B has been in the holistic veterinary field for quite a long time. So I think it's something that if you're not sure about, or if it's something that's new to you, you want to check out all of his information as you can, because starting a holistic veterinary practice since 1996 is pretty cool and pretty impressive, and not a lot of people can say that. All right, guys. So I think we're going to wrap it up because I'm not sure if Dr. B is going to be able to get back in. But if you are watching, thank you so much. And if you were listening to the podcast, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. You got to love technology, right? Bye.